But the one thing I wanted to make sure that you all caught um, in today's lecture is I wanted to talk about the legislative scorecard produced by Foreign Policy for America at the end of every Congress. And so next year, I'm going to be doing a lot of this. Next year, I'm going to be paying very close attention to the way that electeds, um, not just how they talk about a thing, but what they support, right? What they support, what they vote on. So I want to kind of go through Jasmine Crockett's scorecard. So first and foremost, she represents Texas 30, right? So she has a lifetime score of 100. Why and how? We're going to get there. So she supported key legislation around issues such as China, climate change. She said, yeah, playing in my face with that defense budget. And as I mentioned on Melinda's Live, that is going to work in her favor with her base. She supports democracy and human rights. She talked a lot about that last night. She didn't necessarily use the words human rights, but what she did talk about is to make sure that everyone gets a fair shake, right? She talked about entrepreneurship. She talked about farmers. How a country treats its citizens is human rights, right? So I'd argue that what's happening with our farmers is a bit of a human rights issue. Why? Because our farmers feed us. And by yanking markets away from them, you are stopping them from securing food not only for themselves, but for their clients. And many of those clients feed Americans. This is how security matters. How you treat the farmers says a lot about how this country treats the rest of its citizens. That is what essentially makes it a human rights issue. In addition to the unhoused, in addition to people that can't put food on the table because it's all so expensive. She definitely supports legislation to eradicate extreme poverty. The richest country in the world should never, ever have a problem with its people going hungry. She supports gender equity. She supports global health. Anyone who does not support global health coming out of COVID, I'm going to need y'all to go get one of those magical MRIs that they're giving out somewhere. Because I'm going to need to get a scan of your brain to understand what is going on in there. If global health somehow is a hoax, as a person who lost 14 family members at the height of COVID, back to back to back to back to back, I am here to tell you there is nothing hoaxy about COVID. And I am also here to tell you that I am convinced that my mother died of long COVID. The consequences of long COVID in terms of her kidneys just completely being destroyed and shattered, but that's a whole nother conversation. My point with this is Jasmine Crockett has state experience. She has federal experience. She has receipts. We can see where she stands. We can see who she is. We can see what she supports and what she does not support. One thing Jasmine Crockett is not. Oh, phone just fell on over, y'all. We don't have to worry about Jasmine Crockett not being transparent. That's not an issue with her. She's going to tell us exactly how she feels and think about a thing. And that's one of the many reasons why I support Jasmine Crockett. Melinda joked, she said, I'm glad I'm not living in Texas because I'd had a really hard decision. It wouldn't be hard for me, but I am happy that Texas and Tallarico and Crockett have two strong candidates because that's what democracy is about, right? You are supposed to have a problem having a hard choice voting because the candidates are so good. That's how it should be. And I know that we are living in some very ugly and grimy times, and a lot of people out there want to see red meat. Y'all want to see Jasmine Crockett perform and do all the black girl things. I am happy that Tallarico came out with such a classy ad last night. And I'm happy that Crockett also said very classy things about him last night in her announcement speech. I'm not saying that, you know, this is some sort of return to decent politics and all that. No, don't get it twisted. But what I am saying, even in this very aggressive political moment, civility can still exist. And right now, Crockett and Tellerico are showing people how. Hey Sam, let me read you said, is she and the other Dems who are fighters prepared when we win the House and state in the midterms and the billionaires and fascists refuse to let them take control of Congress? That's really a question that I can't answer because I think this question is kind of getting into, are they ready for violence? I think that's what you're kind of getting at. Like what is going to be their recourse if the legal if they try to if they try to block them from actually taking their seats. Like I said, I can't honestly answer that question. I don't know what the legal redress is. I don't know. We'll see. What I hope is what we saw last night with Tallarico, the graciousness, what we saw last night with the graciousness with Crockett, and the way that this race is going to be dirty and ugly. Conan says, it's a gift that Crockett is winning. Okay, but we're going to see. We're going to see about that. But again, what's important for me in these conversations that we're going to continue to have on Security Brief is the receipts. Jasmine Crockett has a 100 on her scorecard. That is an A. Actually, I'm a professor. A 100 is an A plus. Okay. So when she's in the Senate, she's going to be able to be equally and more effective in these roles. And like I told Melinda, she asked me like, what am I eager to see? And my daytime work, why I'm even sitting here talking to you all, what gives me authority to do so is in international security. That's what I do all day. And a bulk of my work and research is in space security. That's what I teach. That's what I write about. I'm very curious to hear Jasmine Crockett talk about NASA. And I'm going to tell you why. This is what I just told Melinda. Not only is it one of those nostalgic unifiers, because NASA has such a long history in Texas. But currently, right now, NASA is under threat, right? In terms of moving closer to privatization. And not just that, even just with its mission, in terms of research and cooperation and collaboration, and all of those things are under threat. And I would love to hear her talk about her thoughts about the relationship with Texas and NASA. And I'm gonna give you a story that I gave Melinda on IG Live, and I want to make sure you all hear the same story. Last year, I was in Texas. I was in Houston giving a talk at NASA. I was so excited. It was amazing. And so I hit it off with my Uber driver. Black dude, he was hella cool. He took me to this New Orleans, this Creole spot. Y'all, I got a po' boy. I got 3 of them, to be honest with you. I took it. Anyway, so we had a conversation because it was about an hour drive. So, we were chit chatting. And what was so beautiful about that conversation, and he's like, you know what? I never gave NASA a thought a day in my life. He said, until I picked you up, Black woman, and you started talking to me about why you're here and your work. So I bring that up to say that young Black man had never really thought about NASA as he lives in Texas. But because I'm a representative of that professional sector, he got to be exposed to something he hadn't been exposed to before. That is the power of Jasmine Crockett. He has the ability. She's a bridge, in my personal opinion. She has the ability to bring people into different spaces that they weren't in before. And I'll give you another reason. Space is important to me because it really is the next frontier. I am having this conversation with you all right now because of space. Because the satellite that is allowing us to be here together in this digital space. A space where I believe everyone belongs. And this is an opportunity to open up the space sector. And who better, in my personal opinion, than to help with that than a Jasmine Crockett? Space is for everyone. That is my tagline on all of my work that I do in space, and also for my working group in space. Space is for everyone. So anyhow, I'm going to get off that soapbox, but that's definitely an issue I would like to hear future Senator Crockett talk about because of its long relationship with Texas. If NASA is not America first, I don't know what is. If it's not patriotism, if it's not us at our best, I don't know what is. But I just wanted to come here because, we had some tech issues, so we had to go to Instagram Live. And I wanted to make sure that you all kind of got the gist of what we were talking about. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Melinda specifically, thank you, Breon, I appreciate you. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Melinda specifically is because Melinda is the executive director of New Evangelicals. For those of you who do not know, I have a background in divinity. Religion means a great deal to me. And I'm also Catholic. So Melinda and I, we have these really great pluralistic conversations about religion, about Christianity, all the things. And so one thing that she mentioned about Tellerico is how he is basically trying to reclaim the Christian space or the evangelical space, but to say, hey, there is, we're getting into some dangerous territory here in our country regarding the Christian nationalism issue. And he also supports separation of church and state. I'm all for separation of church and state. So there, Texas, y'all got a good problem. Y'all have good candidates. Now, here's the trap I don't want you to fall into. To think that a Black woman cannot win. Let's look at Virginia. I came here and I told y'all the night after the Sandberg went hunt. No, actually, the night I was on Roland Martin. And before the numbers even came in, I told y'all Black women did that. And then what happened? 5 minutes later, the numbers came in, honey. Y'all think the base, the 92, all this brilliance, all these receipts, all these degrees, we got to stay home and sit down and shut up? Y'all, we don't want to be fighters. We don't want to do cleanup. But you know what? When you are called you show up. It's that simple. And the message that I heard from Jasmine Crockett last night, she was called for this moment. It has to be this moment. And she was right about that. So let's keep it cute between Tellerico and Crockett, because they are keeping it cute, because the real energy needs to go to the other side. And that's what I want a lot of Dems for y'all to like remember, because the tent of Democrats is big as vast. I'm not one of those people to pretend that it's a monolith. It is far from being a monolith. But I urge this. Please spend your time understanding the assignment. It is not to help the GOP candidate win. How? By constantly bashing Jasmine Crockett, by constantly helping and sharing in misinformation and disinformation. No, Jasmine Crockett does not get money from AIPAC. That is false. And that's a whole nother conversation about donors. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep it a buck, and I'm going to get off because I got other things to do. A lot of y'all got to be honest with yourselves and check your biases. If you ask yourself, what's the real reason you have a Jasmine Crockett? And if your response has something to do with like her eyelashes, or how, she was chosen to be the voice, level, what's your real issue with Jasmine Crockett? Because you said you want to fight her. She's that. You said you want somebody smart. She's that. You said you wanted somebody fearless. She's that. You said you wanted somebody with receipts. She has them. So if that's still not enough for you, you need to dig deeper. And if all you can come up with is her eyelashes, child, you have some work to do with you. All right, let's see. Sammy D said, we don't celebrate intelligence and innovation and historic leaders anymore. People don't know how amazing these government agencies and scientists have been. Yes, we need to lift up actual experts and leaders like Rep. Crockett. Yes, honey, yes. And yes, as an expert, I'm always going to, rock for and rise for. Let's check the experts, but experts got ourselves in trouble because of all that goddamn gatekeeping. That's a whole nother conversation. But Jasmine Crockett is the real deal. And the one thing I'm going to end here with, if there's any doubt, if there's any confusion, there's this one thing that you cannot quibble about. And that is the fact that Jasmine Crockett loves Texas down, honey. And that in her announcement speech last night, it was all about Texas. It wasn't about her celebrity. It wasn't about her national, international public profile. It was about Texas. That is what resonated with me the most. Her deep love for Texas. Not necessarily to see it as a stepping stone to something else, but understanding that she is called for this moment. And while technically her seat is safe, let's go ahead and dispel this one too. The gerrymandering case that the Supreme Court intervened on makes her seat less safe, or she wouldn't be able to live in her own district. So there was an opportunity. And because someone like Jasmine Crockett understands the moment, understands the assignment, and trusts faith and trusts God to the point where she said, I hear you. I'm going to step up. You think it's easy for I would say she's probably between her and Kamala Harris, they're probably neck and neck in terms of having targets on their backs. You think it's easy for Black women to step up in moments like this, to take charge, to lead, when we are looking at the highest unemployment epidemic of one group? If you think that it feels good to get threats, to be called a monkey, to be threatened with nooses hung around your neck, to have to increase your security that's coming out of your pocket, I need people to understand what's at stake when Black folks step up to lead. And she heard her calling, and she said, I am obedient. I don't know what more you want in a candidate, but again, if y'all don't like her eyelashes, that's on you, and you got a lot of work to do, because she is the moment. And Texans, y'all out there, y'all listening, y'all not gonna get a harder working senator. That lady loves Texas down, honey. All right, so I done talked about the legislative scorecard for the last Congress, and Jasmine Crockett scored 100. 2026 is going to be incredibly busy. And so I'm definitely going to have my fingers in a lot more things and try to keep you all abreast with all the different things that are going on. And one thing I want to do with Security Brief is to expand people's idea of what security is and what it isn't. And while I did not hear an explicit national security message last night, what I did hear was a security message. Now, stay with me. Jasmine Crockett talked a lot about the farmers. Farmers feed themselves and us. That is food security. Food security is vital for our national security. You follow me? Security isn't just about war and weapons. It is also about, can I feed my family? Can I house my family? Do I have a job to go to? It's all security. So Jasmine Crockett had a message for your personal security, to keep you employed, to keep you fed, and to keep you housed. It's that simple. It's that simple, y'all. As we head towards a recession, well, we're here. I'm coming from California. I know what an unhoused epidemic looks like. I used to feed unhoused people that lived in my carport for years. These are the real issues. For those of you out there who are wondering, how can you help? How can you get involved? Some people are donating. And, honestly, help tell the truth. Follow people like me and other messengers who are out there making sure that we are showing up with receipts, not just opinions. Help us tell the truth. Help us counter misinformation and disinformation, because it is going to be at an all-time high regarding Jasmine Crockett. All right, Chris, let me get to Sammy. What did you say? They can't gerrymander the statewide election. She can win statewide. She needs to come out hammering the R candidate from the start and continue pounding until the end. No mercy, because they were going to go, oh yeah, no mercy, honey. I think we got that to worry about with the Jasmine Crockett in terms of no mercy. Let's see what Chris said. Her message of being for Texas, not pointing out fame means she's there to live Texas. Yes, I agree, Chris. Makes it less of a take or state by creating more. Yes, absolutely. She did not make it about her. She didn't make it about Jasmine Crockett, the celebrity. She made it about Texas. She made it about y'all. All right, so I got to get out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry for the hiccup earlier. Y'all gonna spend a lot more time with me. So really, just took on in. But 26 is going to be major. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be infuriating. It's going to be frustrating because the R's are going to play dirty, honey. They're going to take out rusty old shivs. Not even knives, honey. They're going to carve those dusty, rusty shivs, honey, and they're going to try and stick them in and stick them in deep. So the one thing that we can counter that is unity and truth. Anytime you see a lie, you correct it, you call it out. That's how we get this done. That's how you help. If you can't help with your pocketbook, because we all know everybody is struggling right now. All y'all right here, if you're on your phone, your laptop, however you were here, you have the ability to help message. You have the ability to help correct disinformation. That's in your hands. For those who can't vote in Texas, you can help make sure that the truth is being told. Hi, Lady B. Okay. I'm really going to go this time. I adore all of you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, I apologize for the security, the tech issues earlier. But go over to Melinda Hill's Instagram page. That's where we had our conversation. And we're going to have tons more conversations, y'all. I have exciting things coming up in January for you all. I appreciate you so much for not just supporting Security Brief, but for telling other people about Security Brief, because there really is no other place where you are going to see a deep dive breakdown, not just about the kind of hard definitions of security, but also to talk about why security matters for your kitchen table. I mean, in terms of you having food to put on it. Let me read this last comment. As a pharmacist, I tell people every day that security includes everything from medication, food, materials. Absolutely. Absolutely. But so much physical and social and cultural currency gets placed on things, national security, hard security, that we don't think about what we need for our everyday lives. And I'd also argue that space is part of that. Keeping space safe is also part of our everyday security. Okay. Soapbox relinquished. I gotta go. I adore all of you. Bye.